Thank you all for joining us today. Thanks for everybody out there who listens to this later. Thank you for listening. But I would love for the team to just give a quick introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for the project.
Perfect. Yeah. So I can get started. So I'm one of the co-founders at Metropolis World. If you want to check out our site, it's metropolisworld.io. And my background is actually in music. So I've been a music producer for many years in the electronic music scene, releasing on a lot of the big labels like Ministry of Sound, Armada Music. And I kind of found NFTs last year in the crazy bull run. And I was looking at, getting into a lot of projects, spending time in Discords, joining communities. And, I felt like there was something missing in a different angle. And ended up actually teaming up with my sister, Rania, who's here, and the other co-founder of the project. And her background is very interesting in relation to this. So, I called her up and we started discussing, and, we just naturally fell into this project, and the rest is history. So, yeah, Rania, if you want to give an overview on your background.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having us. I'm co-founder of Metropolis World, and for me, I really lead the creative vision of the project. And I come from a background first in film, made a bunch of movies, one on Gaddafi's female bodyguards. Then from there, I went on to creating large-scale immersive interactive experiences, and did one that at the time we called a multiverse, because we were creating mythology, lore, and we were actually building these physical environments, and we combined acting, gaming, puppets, animation, everything to create a sort of hero's journey, a sort of metaverse experience, but physical and tangible. So for me, this has always been a really amazing space. And with Metropolis, we're really focused on building an ecosystem that's already fleshed out, that has a ton of cool stories and content, and is not just like an empty metaverse platform. And Jobby's our CTO, who's here, and if he wants to do an intro.
Yeah, hi, yeah. So I'm Joby, I'm the CTO of Metropolis World. Like the rest of the team, I've got a bit of a circuitous background to get here. I started working life as a professional cyclist, moved into stockbroking, then sort of entrepreneurship and development from there. And like most of us, some stage in the last few years fell down the crypto rabbit hole and got into the whole DeFi and all that kind of stuff, and then made my way into NFTs and metaverses. And now I've got the unenviable task of creating the credible vision that Rashid and Rania are developing, making that into code that actually works.
Awesome. And you guys have kind of hinted little hints on what you guys are creating, but can we maybe get like a high level elevator pitch of what exactly Metropolis World is?
Sure, I can jump in. We're creating the capital cities of the metaverse, and we're doing it through 6 unique cities, each with their own niche elemental power. So we've got the City of Air, which we're launching this Thursday, our Genesis city, and we have 5 other cities, one water, earth, fire, space, and pixel. And really for us, we're about creating metaverses that are, or these ecosystems that are curated, that are already filled and rich with content. So the moment even when you go to our site now, you'll see that every single property is a one of one. It's non-generative art. Every property has characters associated, gamification, lore. And this is really part of our bigger vision of creating a world that people want to explore from the ground up, and that they want to sort of stay in, and that it's persistent, like a persistent universe. So that's really the big vision. And we have avatars coming up soon after this property drop. We have City 2, which is already in the works. And we're also building out this the city that you can see on the site, in Unreal Engine. So the idea is that you'll actually be able to portal in to the streets of the city of Celeste, to walk through, to be able to enter shops and buy products that are both digital and physical, to enter galleries, or to get invited to your friend's house and, they're hosting a party. So yeah, that's one thing. I don't know, Rashid, if I'm missing, not exactly an elevator pitch, but I'm missing
That's definitely it. I think elevator pitch is capital cities of the metaverse and like a curated metaverse experience. But yeah, Rania, you've definitely summed it up in a great way.
Excellent. Well, I mean, yeah, I thought that pretty much sold me on it. I'm sitting here looking at the OpenSea page right now because you guys have had a successful mint, right? You minted 5,000 passports for these. For those of us not initiated with the project, didn't make it for mint, what does that passport exactly give you? And what would be the benefit of me grabbing one right now in OpenSea?
Totally. So really the passport's like at the heart of the ecosystem. So the passport gives you entry to the world. It gives you access to all our other drops. So once you have a passport, you can enter the raffle for the Genesis City. You can actually open your gamer profile on the website immediately and start to choose the property that you're interested in raffling for. Guarantees you an avatar, guarantees you a spot in City 2. And it's also where your soft clay currency, which is our pre-token currency, is accrued. So you build up this soft clay that can then be used in our digital physical marketplace. And the whole idea with that is that we've partnered with about like 100 brands, musicians, different people from different spaces to build out experiences and products. And we want people to utilize soft clay essentially to be able to get those things and access those drops. And finally, our avatars, which Joby can talk about the tech around that, but are customizable. So once you get the PFP and it's revealed, let's say you want to change the clothing or the accessories, you can do that, and it even updates on OpenSea. So there's going to be an entire marketplace of these products. So essentially, like even the avatars are layered NFTs and stackable NFTs.
Understood. Well, speaking of avatars, I know a lot of metaverse projects. One of the defining factors is the artwork, right? The style in which they're trying to create the metaverse. We see Sandbox doing their thing with the voxel kind of artwork. We had a project in here. For the life of me, can't remember the name of it. It had more of a GTA 5 kind of vibe to it. What would you say? So when you say these avatars, what kind of like artwork are we looking at here? Is it something more realistic? Is it something more maybe cutesy or more stylistic? I'm curious to hear that.
I think for us, and you can see it already with the city, is we're really going for that fantastical, wondrous meets a bit of reality grit stuff. So I always say, like Miyazaki meets Blade Runner, or Miyazaki meets kind of that arcane feel. So I think that's really kind of the style, and hoping that it becomes our style in a way. So like the avatars, we didn't want to go cutesy. We wanted to go with this idea that this is a new species, that these cities have been reborn after sort of 6 asteroids hit Earth. And through that, you get a mishmash of human, android, animals. So this idea that there's like a new species that's born from destruction. We also like blending things that are familiar but not familiar. And so again, that sort of very stylized artistic style, which again, I think you see it both in the city of Celeste on the site, and you'll start seeing it with our avatars. And one more thing with the avatars, it's 2 collections. It's the citizens and the nomads. And with each one of those groups, we've created subcategories. So you have like the dynamics, the naturalists, the renegades, the vinyls. So really tribes within tribes, to get that kind of explosive narrative that it is that we're trying to do with this project. Sort of like we also use this word like Star Warsian. When you look at the Star Wars series, you're getting this mingling of species and like a hodgepodge of different things, which is what we're doing both with the properties and with the avatars.
Just to add on, every passport holder gets a free mint of the avatars, and your passport will either have a citizen or a nomad attached. So when you purchase the passport, you can see it in the metadata on OpenSea. You've got half of them are citizens and half of them are nomads.
No, and just to answer that, if you want to get a hint of what some of the avatars might look like, then a clue might be in the three PFPs the three of us are using in the chat, in the description.
Yeah. And something else that's been fun is we have this thing called the Ethereals, which are like the spirit animals. You can see my PFP has it, but this is something we're going to be adding to the collection. So the idea is that you get your avatar, but then you can go and actually get that sort of spirit animal that embodies your character, and that's like your pet or your extra piece. So again, like these avatars we think of them as sort of living, breathing PFPs that can expand and grow and change versus you just being locked to one look.
And just on top of that, in terms of the way we're building the Unreal piece, I mean, I like to use Fortnite just in terms of the level of quality of, when I see Ranya's son, for example, playing Fortnite, I sit and I watch it and I'm just really enamored by the world itself. And for us, like the idea of this metaverse, you look at Sandbox and Decentraland, it's not very inspiring. Whereas here, we want people walking down the road and there's weird creatures, and then you walk into, like, let's say Supreme, and you can walk into that Supreme shop in the Unreal Engine environment, purchase a T-shirt, you'll see it in the world, and it gets delivered directly to your home, for example. Or if it's a virtual asset, it drops into your wallet. So we're really keen to take this concept of a gaming level metaverse experience combined with e-commerce events and real world experiences and real world IP like brands and musicians and so on, to build out essentially the same feeling like any real world city where you have a multitude of experiences, e-commerce events and different elements to any city. We want that same feeling with Metropolis World.
So you mentioned the brand partnerships and things like that. Obviously Metaverse HQ is one of the people that you've partnered with in some way, right? I'm curious to know, right now we're seeing like a meta in the space where funding is this big, huge thing. It used to be a project would fund on Mint and would become, Bored Ape Yacht Club essentially, and then they would go out and get funding. But now a lot of people are interested in who's funding this, like how much funding do they have? I'm curious to know, and if this is too personal, totally understand, but it's always a great question to ask in my mind. Are you guys self-funded? Are you guys currently VC funded? Or what's the outlook there?
Totally, yeah. So we're VC funded. We have some really interesting investors, happy to disclose as well. So we got taken to Outlier Ventures Accelerator program earlier this year. So they're one of the leading VCs in Web3, and they typically invest with this accelerator program. They're actually doing one now for fashion with Farfetch, and they have numerous different accelerators. So being part of that was just an extremely valuable experience in terms of making connections in Web3, Santi testing our model, looking at tech scalability within this world. And it was a great experience. We also have the founders of Virgin Gaming as investors, the guys who basically invented the esport. They sold their sneaker company, Sneakers, to Nike. Very, very experienced entrepreneurs who are helping with the gaming build out. We have the chairman of the Tate, which is a really famous museum here in the UK. They have the Tate Modern, Tate Britain, and he's helping on the art side. And a few other VCs have invested following on from Outlier. And now we're in talks with one of the largest, I can't mention who yet because it's not done, but we're talking to someone for a big Series A that's a very high profile investor in the space. So we're very much of the ilk of, run this like a serious company, investors, transparency. We've really taken that approach. And then, of course, drop revenue is something on top which helps to excel, but it's not what we rely on, because especially in these market conditions, and especially with something like this where we have a very long-term kind of vision, it's not enough to rely on, funding through drops. We've already, as you can see, built out this world and kind of formulated the next 3 to 6 months prior to the drops even happening, because we want users to feel that there's immediate value as well as long-term value, and that everything was already kind of in place prior to the launch.
Understood. Does that secret investor that you can't say, does it rhyme with Elon Tusk? That was a joke.
I wish. I don't know if I wish if that.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of heavy-handed. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I am taken back by the art direction here. Just literally going to the website and seeing, how detailed everything is. I noticed like to the left, there's this little tiny like bubble, world right there, and I clicked on it, and that's Zen Academy, and I know who that is. I'm clicking on all these things, and I'm seeing names and recognizing NFTs, NFT people, and communities that I'm aware of. I wanted to get back to like maybe the game itself. So I am just a casual trader, right? I see this as an awesome opportunity to immerse myself in the metaverse. Like, what can I expect from the game? Like when do we see that being something that I can play as a user who wants to participate in Metropolis world?
So we're not building this out as just a game. So the way we look at it is we're adding gamification to your journey or experience. So you have that in the form of the way you earn soft clay, the way you'll be able to rent out your properties, the way you'll be able to sort of host events or create merch and sort of get more soft clay and stake that. And then other ways we've been doing gaming is we've had like quests around the city. So we'll hide, for example, giveaways. We're doing one soon where it's kind of like you have to go to some of the properties and you'll get clues and then you'll find that giveaway. So in terms of like right now, it's not like we're moving only towards like a big epic game. It's more that this is a city, and if you're a gamer, there's going to be the quests, the lore, the mythology, and the gaming piece, but there's a lot more to it. So like a city, if you're not really interested in, say, gaming, but you're more interested in art, there are like the exhibits and the art piece. If you're someone that's just more into the commerce bit, that's also available, versus us sort of presenting this as, say, like a straight Fortnite. So it's this idea where it's there's many tiers to the way in which you can interact with Metropolis World.
And to add to that, one big element is that the property NFTs are stackable. So they can own other NFTs in the form of audio, video, animation, FX. So for example, someone could create like an FX pack where it's raining outside your home, where there's a certain lighting effect, and then you can purchase that as an NFT. And then as you purchase these stackable elements within your property NFT, that will then translate into the Unreal Engine build out. So then, it will actually start raining in that environment, or that property that you purchased as an NFT will pop up in your home and you can place it in the house. So it's done in a really cool way where we're trying to essentially use NFT and blockchain and smart contract technology to really empower this build out as a metaverse, versus maybe just like the classic kind of current PFP model, which is, you buy the PFP, it unlocks some stuff, but ultimately the PFP is what your asset essentially. So that's something that we always talk about, and is really built into the mechanics of all the different drops we're doing.
That makes sense. I understand that, and I'm a big believer in like the metaverse isn't necessarily that to be a game. Clearly, obviously, there's gaming mechanics that can be involved, but that makes sense to me. Getting some good questions here from the questions chat. Ezrin asked, I'll try to formulate this into a question that doesn't sound so pointed. Not that he meant it that way, but why build your own metaverse? I guess what kind of makes this unique for something that you can't bring to, one of the bigger competitors in the metaverse space?
I think I would say that the other spaces just aren't inspiring enough. And so you can go to Decentraland, a sandbox, and wander around, and it's fine, but quickly it becomes dull. And we want something that's different to that. We want a model that's similar to Roblox or Fortnite, where there's tens of millions of users, rather than a few 100,000, which the traditional metaverses. And also, I think the key difference between us and them is we're blending the real world with the virtual world. And it's not really ever going to be, in our minds at least, a separate world. We're creating something that blends real and virtual, and it works together, and it's part of life rather than this kind of separate thing you go and play for a little while and then you go back to your real life. It's more of a whole inclusive thing, and we just felt the others didn't offer that, and we didn't have the fidelity.
Just to add, because funny enough, I actually have a slide in our business deck, which is why are we different. And on that, essentially, we have a few key things, which is firstly the aesthetic. So the visual aesthetic, we want a world which you come to and it's beautiful and it's non-generative and it's something that you actually want to be part of. The curation. So, we brought these 100 partners on board, as you mentioned. You see these different properties. So that it's all, you come to a world already rich with partners and experiences. The digital meets physical, as Joby said, is extremely important. The storytelling, so it's already rich with lore. So when you buy a property here, it has a history to it. Like when you come to London, you might buy a house and Dickens lived in it, and like some famous novelist lived in it, and the building has a history and a charm to it. Doesn't mean you can't make it your own, but you're not just buying some completely empty plot of land that feels very, very neutral. And then for us, another big piece is interoperability. So, we've partnered with Flare Networks, and we're very keen on this idea that we're this capital city, this central hub, but we can portal over to other metaverses, other experiences, and beyond. And the final thing to mention is the context is a unique aspect to what we're doing, where, unlike Sandbox, where you have Paris Hilton land, Snoop land, and each one of those is just an overload of that person's branding and what that person's trying to sell to you. Here you can have an experience where you stop by Steve Aoki's place, you watch a concert, and you walk down the street, you pop into a few galleries, and you traverse to back to Metaverse HQ. You chill there and watch a few workshops. So it's a little bit more like as if you had a day out in New York City or Barcelona or anywhere. We wanted it to feel it has that richness and history to it as a metaverse.
I love that. I love the idea of again, the history behind the metaverse. Something that just out of everything you said, I like that little quote right there, and like air quotes. Enjoy the history of the metaverse. Got a few more questions that I'm going to pivot to from my sheet here, but they're from the guests instead of me. Someone asked, how will the properties be rolled out? Like one at a time, all at once? And are there any samples of what it will look like once a property is owned? And I think they also wanted to see, do you guys have models of what the Unreal Engine renders look like?
We don't have models exactly, but we're building a lot of it in Blender. So a lot of the properties are already in 3D. They may not look like that in the tower because we've had to integrate them so that it works with what you see, but they're being built out in 3D. And then we have like a few interiors that we've started to build out, like hangout places, but not full on yet. Joby, I don't know if you wanted to add since you're putting the team together.
So in terms of so the first part of the question was in terms of how rolled out. So we have a drop coming up Thursday. So passport holders will be able to go and choose the property that they would prefer on the website, and that puts them into a lottery to win the whitelist spot for that particular property. And then from Thursday, they'll have 2 weeks to mint those, so that the whole first city will become mintable pretty much at the same time. But you have to be a passport holder, and you have to win that lottery to get one. So actually with City 2, we're still debating how that will roll out, but it may be slightly different. And then in terms of how it will look, that with this aesthetic and the artwork and the design will stay like very true to the website. But yes, we don't have any models just yet.
Yeah, just to jump in, we've been releasing a few teaser videos. You can see them on Twitter, and I think you'll get the vibe of what that build out will look like. So I think we've got 2 where we're introducing the avatars actually in the world. So that's a really good indication of what the build out's going to feel like. And then one thing to add too, so with the property raffle that's happening this Thursday, if you go on the site, you can actually see on the property cards how many people have put forward their raffle for that particular property. So we're always like saying, obviously you've got the big ones that people really want, that sort of really stand out, but we have a ton of other properties that are a little bit more kind of hidden, or you might not notice like with the first visit to the site. So the fun is to explore those ones, because the likelihood of you winning that raffle is obviously more increases. And then for City 2, we want to ensure that all passport holders will get a property for that. And we are coming up with a fun way where you actually can kind of almost customize or pre-book and sort of add the level of that property, the tier, before it's even built.
Understood. And I apologize if I'm not quite understanding the concept of the passports right now. I did just go buy one, oddly enough, just because I'm very interested in this project, just from the get-go. But so the raffles, are there a certain number of these places that will be raffled off, or will eventually all of everyone who has a passport will be raffled one? I guess that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, so and that, as a passport holder now, you can go to the site and you can choose the property that you're interested in, and then say there's another 20 people who choose that property, then the raffle between those 20 people, and one of those 20 people will win the whitelist for that property. And on the website, underneath the property card, you can see how many people have shown interest or chosen that particular property.
And there's around, in this first city, it's quite a limited supply. It's around 450 properties total. But to answer your question, yeah, all of them are being raffled off on Thursday. And, it's a matter of kind of going and deciding, do you want to go for a more popular one that might have more people aiming for it, or do you want to find the ones that are less voted on, which can be done on the site? Even you can search on the site and see most voted, least voted. So it's kind of a bit of game theory, even in just you choosing which property you might want to have the raffle for. In itself is like a mini game.
Understood. So, and again, getting more questions from people in the crowd who are slightly confused, but I want to make sure we iron out that confusion for your all sake. One person asked, like, so if I win the raffle, I then pay another price to mint that land, right? I don't win it, correct? I win the opportunity to buy it. Is that right?
Yeah. For City 1, it's this 6 tiers of pricing. So we've tried to make it as spread out as possible to be inclusive. So you can see the tier of pricing as well as the number of votes on every property, and you can kind of filter by tier based on what you're comfortable with. And then for City 2, the pricing is, because it's 5,000 properties instead of the Genesis, which is only 450. It's a much more inclusive entry point. So it's really that you kind of choose what you want to spend on that property to potentially upgrade it and build it up. And then with avatars, your mint is free for every passport holder. And the avatars are really, there's a lot of we've gone above and beyond, just like you see with the properties, like the amount of traits and the level of design that's gone into them. But for City One, every property is completely bespoke. So this is like non-generative art. It's all hand painted. Like our team have a lore team that is just building a story for every property there. Each one has its own utility. So really a lot has gone in. It's been about 1 year of just full on work to get these 450 properties up.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the collage of them all here, it's pretty crazy. Rizzle asked in VC chat, so it's possible for me to be a passport holder and then not get a land at all, right? Does that translate into the second land sale as well?
Absolutely, and actually, we've built the mechanics around passports in a way that the passports will have to accrue value versus like we didn't do it like an access pass, basically, where you lose and then it falls away. Because if you own a property, you need a passport to access the world. It's like in the real world. If let's say you have a property in London, but you can't access London, you could sell it. I mean, you could put it on an OpenSea, or you could, in the real world, ask a real estate agent to sell it, but you can't use the property. And same with the avatar. So what happens with this is that as people potentially purchase properties on secondary, new individuals, or they purchase avatars on secondary, and they come to our site to connect and start engaging with the world, they'll be prompted to purchase a passport to do anything. So we've done that to protect passport holders and essentially allow that to accrue value. So in a way, what we've done is, City One's a little bit higher entry. You have to kind of pay to access it because it's so, hand painted, bespoke, like very low supply. Avatars, your first mint's free, and then you can mint more if you want, and then the community decide the supply. And then City 2 is a larger, more inclusive city where every passport holder gets a property, all your soft clay that you earn that then gets used in the world, in the marketplace and so on, all accrues on the passport. And even if you own a property and an avatar, you will need a passport to do anything. So they're all intertwined, and there's a lot of complexity, but ultimately it's done in a way to kind of protect our Genesis holders.
Yeah, and if you have a passport, the moment you connect to the site, it unlocks your gamer profile, and that's where you really start to see how the value builds from the soft clay to your collectibles to the properties, etc. So that gamer profile is sort of active from day one. We actually did a collectible where every passport holder could go and claim a free magazine, like an explorer's guide to the city. So they had to sort of locate the publishing house, the Metropolis Daily, connect their wallet, and they got that for free. So yeah, it's almost like your identity card as you sort of journey through the world, and as we build out more things, it grows with you.
And on that magazine, we actually partnered with Time Out, and we're the first metaverse city that Time Out are treating like a real city. So you have like what's on in New York, what's on in London, what's on in Metropolis World, and they want to like do some limited edition NFT covers with us that are only for passport holders. And we recently got represented by WME, the agency that own like UFC and Freeze and rep all these different people. And that's really good because it allows us access to bring a ton of different interesting IP plays into the world, experiences, and we're constantly getting all these like different opportunities for that. So it just makes it significantly easier for us to kind of access these different things and provide them to our holders.
Excellent. Ezra has been asking some really awesome questions this entire time, so I want to make sure that I ask this one as well. Actually, before I get to this, sorry, you guys brought up something. Do we know what the tier pricing is right now? So obviously, I see you said there's 6 tiers or 5 tiers. What is the pricing for each? Do you guys know that yet, or is that something that's yet to be revealed?
Yeah, that's live, and you can see it on the site, but we can go through it as well. So you have essentially the SP tier, which is like the super high end, crazy properties, and there's only a few of them at 2 ETH. You have like the really, really nice, huge ones at tier 1, 1.75, Tier 2 is 1.25, Tier 3 is 0.75, Tier 4 is 0.45, and Tier 5 is 0.25. So quite a wide range, essentially 0.25 ETH for your entry properties all the way up to 2 ETH for the like super insane ones. And we kind of wanted to spread it as much as possible while taking into account that every one is like a bespoke piece of art, and like each one is completely unique. I mean, there's no rarity even, because ultimately they're each completely hand drawn.
Understood. Thank you for explaining that. Sorry, I did not see that on the website when we had mentioned it, but now I do. So Ezrin's question was, there are so many big vision thoughts of a metaverse, and you mentioned things like renting, parties, gamification, and several other things. What exactly is the top priority that you guys want to have ready at launch when you guys launch this product?
I mean, for us, I think it was that we wanted to have the world building aspect and the visual aspect already done, which is kind of like where we stand today, so that, you know, it's already really fleshed out, because we look at so many NFT projects and even metaverse projects and anything that has lore, and it's like a one pager, you know, it's just, there's some like, you know, you go into their Discord and there's this like lore page and it's just like a couple of paragraphs. I mean, with this, it's like really, I mean, the level of thinking that's gone into like every property and its functionality and its features and the stories and the characters and how it all plays together. So we wanted that to be in place. We wanted like essentially all these beautifully aesthetic properties in place, because then it becomes much easier to build the tech around that to create multiple portals of access, whether that's like going to an art gallery and experiencing this at Frieze Art Fair, all the way to entering a full-blown Unreal Engine environment. You know, that's all doable at the end of the day. It's been done by thousands of game companies, and, you know, exhibitions are hosted across multiple countries all the time, and commerces and marketplaces are very easy to set up. But what is lacking in the space is something that's really truly fleshed out and intricate and has that level of, you know, wow factor to it from day one. So, and the partnerships. So we spent a lot of time, you know, with these 100 partnerships where we brought on Fuck Render, Steve Aoki, Diplo, Bordy Elon. We're doing stuff now with some really big other people that are kind of non-crypto people, and Time Out and so on and so on. Like, we wanted to bring all the ingredients that would truly make a successful product, and then, you know, building out the layers of the tech and functionality of that product is simple. For, you know, and I think as a proof case, when you look at our website and how that website, if you gave that to like a web developer or something, that would typically require a massive team. I mean, that website knows your time zone, and the weather changes on the website based on that time zone, and like just the flow and the user experience and the way you can open property cards. And we really put a lot of handcrafted elements to that as quite a small team. So I think we wanted to prove that first and show the quality and level a project can be like in the space versus like a 10K generative collection of, you know, I don't know, aliens or dogs or cats and stuff. Like, we wanted to really present something unique. And I think that's also why we're attracting a lot of the VC funds in the space, because they can see that it's a scalable project, a city that can have multiple IP integrated plus a strong core IP, and you can really build out many kind of avenues to the project. And that's what we're excited about, I think.
Awesome. You got another question here. You mentioned that a little bit ago that it would look a bit like Fortnite style wise, but with like the lore and stuff, will obviously be a very different game. So what game would you say would compare to the experience you guys were providing when it comes to like the lore and the world building?
I mean, for me, just from more of a filmmaker background, I think more as a storyteller than a gamer. But I think I think Zelda is a good one. I think thinking of it more like, for me, I think about it again like a Star Wars, a Blade Runner. It's a world that you could play any kind of game in there. It could be a quest game. It could be, you know, sort of kind of a conflict game, whatever it is. But the way we're approaching it is more creating, creating characters that are interesting, creating sort of micro tensions, subplots, then bigger plots, and then creating these properties that, as Rashid said, they have stories behind them. So there's stuff happening already. So if you go to the lore cards, a lot of these properties they're doing things, or things are, there's already sort of a story within that property. So I think that's kind of how we're thinking about it, versus we want it to be like this game or that game. So that's my take. I mean, Joby, Rashid may have more of a gamer perspective, but I'm really coming at it more from that sort of make it a compelling story, and the game mechanisms will sort of come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we reiterate that it's less building out a full-blown game, which is, there's huge competition in that space. Is like that it's not, you need hundreds of millions of dollars to do it to that level if you want to compete with something like the Fortnites of the world and so on. It's much more about a metaverse where people can, it has that quality, it has this aesthetic that draws people in, it has underlying stories, and you can then customize your own experience within that, and it becomes like being part of truly a vibrant city. And in Web3, it's all about community, and we utilize things like Discord to build out communities, and we create channels, and each channel has a topic or some kind of interest-based thing. So we see that a city is really a community, and a vibrant one that has a multitude of events, content, experiences, commerce all happening. And I think that's essentially at the heart of the vision, is creating a thriving city that transcends both, that blends both digital and physical realms, essentially.
And one thing that we're really big on too, which we did prior to this with the world building and the immersive interactive work, was that role playing. So the idea that you could be a shop owner, you could own the boba tea shop, or the sports center. So that kind of role playing piece is also really available, given the nature of how we sort of like created the city and with the characters.
Understood. And I think I might have asked this, but I don't know if anyone answered, or if they did, then for some reason I didn't hear it. But when do you guys expect this to release? When's the release date for it?
What, for which element? For the Unreal build, or?
Yeah, correct. The Unreal build that people can pop in and do these things.
Unreal build, we're aiming to have the first street, which is really shows this type of functionality where you can have integrated e-commerce and experiences. In the next 2 to 3 months, we're hoping to have something out there. And the idea is that our Genesis holders will help us test that. So the idea is that we want the Genesis holders to help us build things that they actually want to use. And with this vision that, as you integrate brands like the Supremes of the world, or Time Out that has, 80 million active users, you build a Roblox model where essentially you could have 200-300 million people coming to your site, exploring the lore, experiencing the art and galleries, coming to Metropolis events. But then you have your core holders that are actually able to customize within the world and build out their ecosystems within the world. So that's the model, and that's why I think we want our Genesis holders to help us test and tell us, look, that makes sense. This is working. This is great. So we're very iterative of that approach, because we truly want to create results. And, I think iterative approach is the only way to really actually hit the mark with any product.
Got it. Understood. Well, we're kind of wrapping up here. We had some great questions and some great responses, so we appreciate that. But I want to give you guys time to maybe pepper in something you didn't mention or that you are excited about. I know someone here in MBHQ, and I'm so sorry, I have dogs that like to bark at people walking by. I know someone here at MBHQ mentioned that there might be an MBHQ style land somewhere out there. They mentioned that. So I wanted to mention that, but I also wanted to give you guys time to kind of wrap things up and kind of maybe give a little tidbit to walk away from this conversation with.
Yeah, I mean, look, for us, I think we're really, as a team, we're a core team of people. You can see from the site, the quality. We want to innovate in this space. We didn't want to create something that's just another spin-off, another 10K PFP collection. Like, we really put a lot of thought into like our mechanics and the aesthetic, and it's paid off in terms of, the VCs we brought on board, the partnerships we brought on board, and, what we've attracted. And I think that's a key thing for us, is like, we want a product that we could look at it and say, for someone to copy this and redo this, it's not a 2-week, process like a lot of these collections. It's a process where it would take a year. We want to be a year ahead on that. And we see the metaverse as something that still for a lot of people is theoretical. I don't think the Sandbox and Decentraland have really cracked it, but we wanted to kind of take the approach of bringing the right content, experiences, creating a magical world, utilizing the technology that's readily available today, and being very smart about the next steps to build really a brand and world that encompasses the physical realm, the digital realm, even just traditional Web 2.0 realm, and really create something unique and special in the space. So, I think that's what drives us and as a team, and kind of where the vision is going. As a whole. I don't know, Rania, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think that was all well said. I mean, just to echo what Rashid's saying, is we're here for sort of a long-term play rather than just something that's fast and quick. And it's really, building any kind of world takes time. We're doing it sort of brick by brick. We feel really happy with this Genesis City. I think it shows in terms of content quality and even just the partners we have. This is just the beginning. And I think, we really are looking forward to sort of going on the journey with our community, our current community, and new members as well. And very passionate about what we're doing, what we're building.
Well, awesome. We really appreciate you guys stopping by and kind of explaining a little bit more about Metropolis World. We have for pass holders, for us pass holders, now that I'm a member, we have an avatar coming up. You said October 6th, is that right? Or no, sorry, the raffle is October 6th. I'm sorry. Can you please explain what date we have coming up?
We have this Thursday is the raffle for the properties. There's only 450 properties, unique, the custom properties that you see on our website. So if you want a shot at getting one of those properties, you need to get your passport and put your raffle on your favorite one.
Got it. All right. So if you're listening to this later on, note that is an important date, this Thursday. Make sure you got your raffle in if you're a pass holder. Awesome. Well, again, thank you all so much. This project looks awesome. I love the artwork. I love the direction that you guys are headed in. Can't wait to see what you guys can make of it. So we're really excited. Thanks everyone here at MVHQ for tuning in. And thank you everybody who listened to later. I know we get a lot of people who listen to this and can't just tune in whenever they want. So thanks for staying through and listening to the end.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great one, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.